On this episode of the John1911 Podcast, cocked and blocked, white Steyr og, bitches and hoes, and how to stop pedophiles. Okay, good evening, everybody. Today is Saturday, November 18th, and this is episode 322 of the John1911 Podcast. This is going to be a solo episode. Running a little bit late on getting this episode out. I was really hoping on Friday, and then actually the goal was to do it earlier in the week, but then I was going to get the boys together, but there were some issues that came up and they couldn't do it. Incidentally, Kraken has been out hunting, and he's already bagged a buck for this year, so congratulations to him. We are still making progress with the construction that's going on at the John1911 range, and I am, I don't know if I don't believe I've actually said this on pod, but we did kick the hunters off this year because of the construction. And, I informed them a while ago of this, and they weren't upset, and they didn't really question me, or really the contractors either, but it did come up kind of like, well, this will all be done before hunting season starts. And, well, no, I knew that shit wasn't going to happen. So here we are dealing with that. Let's see, anything with, well, you know what? Here's the thing. So I don't know if I've mentioned this on pod, possibly, but I talked about it on the website, and I'm probably going to try to finalize it with the Amish dude on Monday. Is what we're calling colloquially the Coyote door, which is this elevated little hatch that we can open up from the top of the barn, shoot over the berm back into the rifle range, but in all weather, and hunt coyote. Really hunt anything on that range. Maybe I could do groundhogs or call in coyotes or whatever other vermin or animal control I need to try to do, but that is still progressing, and I've kind of even taken it a little further to maybe see if I can have a small bench up there. It'll be in the rafters. It is a big barn, but I don't want to put a whole floor up there, but yeah, like I don't see why we can't have a small little shooting bench, because if you're going to be up there, someone's going to be up there shooting, realistically going to be up there a long time waiting, and so it'd probably be good to have a place to have the rifle sit or off to the side, and but if I do this brings up the question, how full featured do I want to make this shooting position up there? And it's like, I really don't want to make this expensive or complicated, but it's like a typical shooting bench is right-handed and left-handed. Well, this window or trap door that I envision isn't going to be big enough to accommodate both a right-handed and left-handed, bench up there. So unfortunately, I'm right-handed. Everyone the principal people that shoot at the range are right-handed. So not that we don't have any left-handed shooters, we certainly do. But yeah, I think the facilities are going to be designed up there at the Coyote door are going to probably be right-handed. So, there's an update on that. A little bit of the barn stuff, a little bit on the Coyote door, and which kind of goes with the hunting, because we are definitely in the deer hunting season, around the country, and kind of share that a little bit. On the military surplus front, because we are degenerate gun owners or gun buyers. Even though we're kind of crippled a little bit on shooting and the production of content, it doesn't mean we're still going to be buying guns, right? So we posted some photographs and now a video of, and there's some debate as to what to call this gun. It's a French Army service pistol. It's a 9mm, and it's the Model 50. And primarily, you will see this referred to as the Mac Model 50, MAC M50 or Model, whatever how you say in French, 50. But here's the rub, and this kind of came up with the FFL shooters when we had it transferred in on their bound book. They're logging it in as an MAS 50 because our particular gun is not a Mac produced gun. It's a let's see, Mac is Chateau and then MAS is Saint-Étienne. I didn't study it, and there was going to be a quiz, but I think that's right. And MAS, I think, is even a rarer gun in the grand scheme of the 300,000 that were made. But we ended up rolling an MAS from the importer. So that gun came in. We've shot it a little bit. I will say this: there's a perception online among the military surplus kind of community that it's a gun that you can't carry cocked, and it's not a reliable gun, and it's not an accurate gun. And I'm like, you just look at the video. I pride myself on being a pistol shooter, and within just like a minute or two of practice, the ergonomics of turning off the safety and presenting that gun for a committed shot are almost instantaneous, especially if you are, used to using your thumb from your primary hand to activate the safety. If you have to reach high, and knock the safety, the location of the safety on this MAS 50 Mac 50 does appear to be unusual compared to a lot of American guns, but I think it's quite viable. I think it's relevant. I think it's doable. You can check out the video on John1911.com and give me some feedback and see if you agree or whether you disagree. The only downside, and this is kind of like, dad joke territory here, because like in 1911, we'll call them cocked and locked, right? So the gun is cocked, and then you can throw the safety up, and it it keeps the gun from firing, but also locks the trigger and locks up the slide. But you can't drop the hammer or anything. Well, on the MAS guns, when you put it on safe, you can still drop the hammer because it's a firing pin block, or I guess it's a hammer block, because it blocks the hammer from hitting the firing pin, but it will drop the hammer. So, if you're going to carry this gun cocked, you'd probably want to use a holster that completely covers a trigger guard, because if you don't, that's going to be a problem. You could end up coming up with a dead gun, but it's not cocked and locked because you can drop the hammer. So I'm calling it cocked and blocked. So I said that. I don't know if I said it on video or if I wrote it in the article. I just popped into my head. This gun is cocked and blocked. So I don't know what else to put it. So I've invented a whole new category of carry. So eat your heart out, Israelis. I just thought that was quite funny. In further news, as far as being a degenerate gun buyer, we have finally picked up a Steyr AUG. And I alluded to this in the last podcast because we had gotten a notice in an email that, this Gun Prime, I don't remember even who it was. I'll find it, in the last episode 321, there's a link to the gun that we bought. And they were very fair priced. I thought they were very fair. And the one in particular that I was interested in, they had it in stock. It's a Steyr AUG with the white furniture, and it takes the Steyr AUG magazines. For one, if I want the Steyr AUG experience, I want to use the Steyr AUG magazines. So again, it's kind of a reference gun and an experience. We don't want the NATO stocked gun. We don't want to run AR-15 magazines in it. I'm not down on the AR-15 type gun or the Steyr mag version. I've heard that the Steyr mag version, it locks back, but there isn't a bolt release for the Steyr mag design. I've subsequently heard that. But that gun makes a lot of sense. For example, if it's a working gun, say if you're a team or a company, or you're getting paid to carry that gun, and we live in America or an American supply chain, and you need to share magazines or acquire magazines, it makes a lot of sense to get the Steyr AUG with the STANAG magazines. However, from a kind of a reference gun collection, I think the AUG style magazines is really the way to go, because if I want to throw in a magazine, if I want to throw an AR-15 magazine, I've got plenty of guns that can, I can practice feeding AR magazines into magwells. So I wanted the experience of the AUG. Also, in the last episode, this particular company, the way they're listing this gun is so goofy. I actually misread what the gun was, because I had read the ad as a NATO STANAG rifle as opposed to the AUG mag rifle. And what they've done is they've put the word, I think they're calling it 5.56 or 223. I guess they're calling it 5.56 to be correct. They're listing it as a Steyr AUG 5.56 NATO. And then further down in the description, they're saying it takes Steyr magazines. And it's like, I understand the 5.56 and, maybe you want to call it NATO, but I saw NATO and I thought that was referring to the magazines, not to the caliber. So I think, if they were, I thought about reaching out to the company and being like, you've got this description kind of fucked up. So anyway, a couple of you reached out and said you had looked at the ad, and because I wasn't going to buy the gun because it takes AR mags, and turns out I was misinformed. Subsequently went out, bought the rifle, have not shot it. It has come in, and I played with it. It is currently with the rest of the reference library at an undisclosed location with Dick Cheney. So when things settle down with construction, we'll get it out and shoot it. Why the white gun? Why would I want the white gun? I'm so sick of black. I'm just sick of black guns. Every gun, if you're in the armory, well, the old armory, if you're standing before the breadth of our reference collection, you see two things. You see black, and then you might see some wood and an occasional weird color. You'll see a gun that maybe I've painted. We have a red rifle that is it ARAK gun from is that Faxon, whatever the Faxon gun is. And I personally get tired of just all black guns. Well, bought the AUG to play with it, to shoot it, obviously, get the experience of running the AUG and a bullpup, which I don't have really much experience with. The last bullpup that I've ever shot at any great length was a Bushmaster M17S, and that was in the 90s. That was probably 1999, 1998. It's been a hot minute since I've even really touched a bullpup. But, the white gun kind of appealed to me. I'm not really the Stormtrooper Star Wars. I like Star Wars, but that I just wanted it. I wanted it. Like, I just wanted a different colored gun, and I've always wanted the white ones. I know it's going to be hard to keep clean, but I'm not that worried about it. And I guess the kids on the internet, they say that you can use, what do you call it? Is it Mr. Clean scrubby pads or Mr. Clean eraser pads that possibly to, keep that clean. As for the AUG that we bought, it's a flat top. It's just Picatinny rails. The barrel does come right out of it. Would we ever want to put like maybe a heavier barrel, like one of those longer LMG barrels on it with a bipod? Yeah, possibly. I can just, I could be fun shooting a 24-inch 5.56, barrel out of the Coyote door, at the John 1911 range, at Coyotes. I think that would be kind of neat, and just the ability to just, pull the barrel out and put another barrel in. Obviously, probably have to zero it, but it's gonna be fun. Gonna be fun to do that. Let's see here. What else is there? Oh, the Marlin Papoose. Again, degenerate gun buyers. We do have a Papoose, again, never fired, currently located with Dick Cheney at the undisclosed location, and 22 gun. We have a lot of 22 caliber rifles, and Shooter Supply, I've even mentioned it to them because there's a lot of guns that we've been purchasing, older 22s that most of you haven't seen. And one of the things I've decided to do, and it's a project I've worked on all year, is I'm expecting a very bad winter here in Ohio, and especially at the John1911 range. And the rifle range, our range isn't like Camp Perry, where it's just flat and then you go out to the lake. I mean, our range has a lot of roll, and like we've got trucks and vehicles and tractors and UTVs, and we can get up and down those ranges. There's going to be a lot of days where maybe I don't want to have to go up and down and police that range for whatever reason, because I don't want to tear up the range. I mean, look, it's my range. I'll do whatever I want. But I thought, what better day, what better time than in the snow to shoot 22 caliber rifles for groups, position shooting, accuracy, function, just experience, inside the pit, that we could film and just do content with. Because the pit, caddy corner to caddy corner, which we've never really demonstrated on film, is 50 yards. And while I know that there's a bunch of you guys out there doing the PRS 22 series, shooting out the 400 yards with the 22, that's I mean, I don't even know if I'd hear it hit at 400 yards. But it's going to be fun to shoot some of these guns, in these short ranges in really inclement weather, and just to come up with things to do. So that's kind of the project. So I'm saying all that to say this: the Marlin Papoose, as much interest as many of you have expressed in us doing something with that gun, there's no way you're gonna see anything with that gun until after the snows come. So anyway, and along those lines, and I haven't revealed this, and so this will be the way to test people, that listen to the podcast as opposed to just consume our content like on social media. We have picked up another gun that we have not revealed, and we picked it up the same day we picked up the Steyr AUG, and it is a Smith & Wesson J-frame revolver, and it's called a 351C. And so what it is, a little snub-nosed J-frame revolver, but this is chambered in 22 Magnum, and I think it's an 8-shot. And why did I pick that gun up? Well, guy I used to work with, he's a pretty nationally renowned trainer, and he's a little bit of a revolver kind of aficionado. And when he started talking up the 351 and 22 Magnum as kind of a backup gun, or as a gun maybe he could use for, say, if he was mowing his lawn or doing whatever, I started paying attention because I respect him quite a bit. I always had a statement of, why don't I own a J-frame revolver? Because I'd fucking carry it. Because I'm a big advocate of carrying full-size service pistols to do the work that that you need. I can't imagine. It's why I never carried the officer size 1911s. I like the full size grip, and because I've got full size hands. Hence, my notorious dislike for the, like the Glock 19 that I've harped on here as of late. Well, the 351 it's aluminum frame gun. I'm assuming. I know it's lightweight, and I can hold on to that gun. I'm curious what the recoil is going to be like in 22 Magnum, and just to kind of see the performance. But also, I have to acknowledge that probably it would be a good idea to have some viable. Well, it's a good idea to have a true, I don't know, stick it in your pants gun. I mean, or we talked about, cocked and blocked. There's a Jesus, Marky phrasing. So anyway, I guess I'm having a hard time justifying it. I bought another gun, don't tell mom. So anyway, you'll probably see the 22 Magnum revolver before you see the 22 long rifles. And because to me, the 22 Magnum is more of a working category of gun. It would be interesting to shoot it, see what the recoil is like on it. Be interesting to see if it would drop the plates on the plate rack on video. I have really not a whole lot of experience with 22 Magnum. Not that I would expect it to do the work of a full size service caliber, but I'm super curious. And this might even start, some processes of we're planning on, after the construction gets out of the way, we have a ton of these gun projects and things going on that we would like to start sharing on a more regular basis. But the way the business has been set up, it has been difficult to arrange equipment and videoing and time at the range all at the same time. And so that's part of the reason why we're making all these changes, so we could get more shooting content out, like gobs of it out, and get it recorded and published and do all that. So there's tons of guns. We have J-frame revolvers you guys have never seen. I've got an all steel 9mm Smith & Wesson. I guess it's a 5-shot revolver, J-frame revolver, with a little 2-inch, little snubby 2-inch, whatever it is. And it's in 9mm. I think it's called a Smith & Wesson 940. And I got this gun, I don't know, let's see, what is it, 2023? I probably got the gun in maybe, I don't know, sometime between 2010 and 2012. And I've shot it just a few times. So it's been over 10 years since I've shot the gun. And actually, I got it on the recommendation of Dave Spalding. Dave was a big advocate of the 941 or 940? These 9mm snub nose revolvers, because they used the same ammo as the duty guns for his police department. And so I was like, well, and they're considered desirable and kind of rare and expensive. The downside of these guns is the amount of recoil can cause the crimp of the bullet to separate, and the bullet can start to come apart in the chamber from the unfired rounds and maybe even lock up the gun. So it's a big, complicated thing. But one thing to note, and I noticed it when I shot it, and this was one of my journeys going more towards 9mm and away from, say, 45, was there's a lot of people that like to make a lot of comments about 9mm not really being up to snuff, or it's kind of like a powder puff round, or 115 is half a 230. Look, we sold that shirt, I get it. I would tell a lot of people that are not that hip on 9mm revolver, or 9mm as a caliber. You get a chance to shoot an all steel stub nose Smith & Wesson 940, and I'm not going to say it's like shooting a 44 Magnum. It's not, but dude, that gun stings. I mean, that thing legit stings. And it's like you start realizing there's some power there. But I don't want to get involved in whole barrel length thing and all that kind of stuff. So in further news, we've had a couple of people over the past, say, month reach out, because I'd posted some content and videos some years ago on the Valmet, Valmet. You can't say Valmet. I got in trouble on the internet. The video's still up, though. The Valmet M71, M76. I think the M82 is a bullpup. But these are the 5.56 caliber AKs made in Finland. And the magazines for those guns were always crazy expensive because there were never enough of them. So we have a pile. I've done some stuff, and people... I've posted, when I say done some stuff, I've posted content. That content becomes a little long tail. Anyone that types in Valmet 5.56 magazines eventually ends up at John1911, kind of like, Blazer people do. And so I've had a number of people, I don't know, 3 or 4 just in the past number of weeks, asking where they can get, Valmet magazines. And it's like, one guy was like, well, so you can help me out because I don't want to pay what they're asking. And so what that told me was, it's like, well, dude, you can find one. So I went looking. It's like, well, I don't know. How much are these magazines? And number 2, you must be able to find them, because if he's got one that his gun, if he's got a Valmet and he doesn't have a magazine, because they apparently sold these guns without magazines at one point, and he's like, hey, I don't really like that price. That tells me, he's got options. It's like, because if it comes down to a gun working or not working, especially a rare gun and a valuable gun and an expensive gun, and like whatever the mag cost, buy one of the damn things. So I started looking around, and I did a little write-up on the latest market trends with the Valmet did it again. The Valmet 5.56 magazines, and it looks like right now the market of these guns is about, or of these magazines, these AK magazines, and they're proprietary because you can't stick other mags in them without modifying them. the market seems to be, the people are trying to get about $500 for these magazines. That's basically the conclusion I've come to. And so off of that analysis, I would say if you see a $400 Valmet magazine and you need one, that's probably worth buying. There is a one dealer I saw on Gunbroker. He has 2 Valmet magazines for sale. They are factory new. They're factory original. They're not modified magazines. They're factory Valmet magazines. OEM is the word I'm looking for. They're OE, original equipment manufacturer magazines. And he is asking, I think, $750 for each magazine. And it's like, holy shit. But you know what? I went on looking around on the internet 2 days ago, and I found 4 or 5 or maybe 6 Valmet magazines for sale. And it's like, if you need these magazines, they are out there. I don't know if the value of the magazines is smoking them out, or if there's going to be, like, I don't know what the new normal is, but if you're one of those people that's reached out and you're like, I don't want to spend whatever X is for the magazine, my advice is, if you have to spend $500 just to have the magazine, I'm so sorry, but you're probably going to have to do it. Anything under $500 is probably better than market rate value. Anything $300 is a steal, and buy them all. Because we had bought Valmet magazines for $200 a pop, and we bought a pile of them. We scooped up some individuals, and we were able to buy a pile, and people thought we were nuts. And now it's like $400 is a deal. Well, if it ends up being $750 for magazines, the $500 is going to look like a deal. So, collecting is a disease, especially rare or obscure guns. My advice would be, don't do it. Just get an AK and a Glock, or an AR-15 and a Glock like everybody else, and march on with your life. But the prices of magazines kind of got me thinking, because it was like, man, that's expensive. Because why have we been making a bunch of acquisitions? Well, just like during COVID, we made some acquisitions because we started to see a softening up of certain subsets of the firearms community. People during COVID, they wanted working, modern, assault, tactical, high capacity guns. They weren't that interested in, say, old wooden collectible guns, or World War II guns, or maybe what's the 22 caliber, all the Mohawk and the whatever, like the all plastic nylon 66. No one was interested in nylon 66 because people were not running out to buy nylon 66 if they could help it, to defend themselves from Antifa. So, or whatever commies they're calling themselves these days. So, there were some deals to be had. Well, I've noticed what the economy seems to be, I'm not going to say the economy's softening, but there's problems. Money is being soaked up out. Disposable income is being sponged up out of people's pockets into necessities and higher priorities. And I've noticed in a lot of segments of the firearms business, the gun prices are coming down. I've heard that AR-15 sales from a few of the major manufacturers are literally in the fucking dumpster. It is terrible, apparently. It is terrible. And these companies that aren't diversified are just like AR-15 centric companies, they're hurting. Like, even if they're still selling a ton of guns, they're not selling what they're used to. And if they're a mid to small size AR-15 company, they're big trouble. Wyndham Weapons just went out of business. You may see some other consolidations or going out of business in this segment, because a lot of these, a lot of this stuff is starting to go down in price. And so it's like, well, gosh, the magazines are going up, and the Valmet magazines are going up in price. The AR-15s are going down. Some of the guns that we're buying or seeing have come down in price because they're not the latest, greatest tactical, whatever Wonder Kid thing. And so it's like, well, is the market trending down? And so in my research, very quickly, I was disabused of this because I saw there are now semi-automatic FNC rifles. If you know what the FNC is, the movie Heat, Al Pacino is shooting an FNC rifle in that Hollywood shootout scene. That's his gun. And it kind of became no one really knew what that gun was until the movie Heat, and it became kind of a hipster cool gun. We've got one. And I don't remember what we paid for it. And we paid at the time what we thought was a pretty penny, but it wasn't, it wasn't $7,000. It was, I don't know. It was in the twos. We paid $2,000 some for it. And that was a lot of money. And now some guy on the internet's asking $7,000. Is he going to get $7,000? Just because someone lists a gun for $7,000 doesn't mean that's what they sell for. Just like the Valmet magazines listed for $750. Doesn't mean that's what they sell for. Realized price is important. But the market is skewing. The collectible, desirable, the in style, the cool stuff is still hot, but a lot of the maybe also rans and second tier and third tier, the disposable income is kind of getting pulled away from those pools, and those pools are getting shallower and shallower. Every dude that would want an AUG is bought the AUG, so the sales on those are down. Every dude that's wanted an AR-15 has bought an AR-15. The sales of those are down. I don't know what's going on with Glock. I don't know what's going on with, Daniel Defense. I don't know what's going on with BCM. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens to the community, the firearms community, or say over the next 12 to 24 months. Probably at least 18 months with the election and the economy, just to kind of, see what happens. So there's my state of the firearms market right now. And, so there it is, for whatever it's worth to you. The good news is this is not going to be an incredibly long podcast because I'm doing it solo and I've only had about 4 hours of sleep. And I've only been getting about 4 hours of sleep every night for most of the past 30 days. So it's been kind of rough. So I am aware of some of the stuff that's been going on with the bump stock case and, some of the injunctions with the courts. Don't know a whole lot about it. It's kind of, the stuff changes, so it's hard to get that invested in it. We don't own any bump stocks. I'm not against them. It's like, but you can't ban physics, Donald Trump. You can't ban physics, ATF, but it is what it is. I'm glad to see it. Hopefully it gets overturned. The whole thing is just kind of jive ass bullshit, but it is what it is. In fun, interesting news, how cool is your dentist? You have a cool dentist? You like your dentist? Is your dentist young and hip? Does your dentist sell teeth whitening and Invisalign? Is your dentist, out there? Is your dentist willing to give you that news anchor smile, that teeth so white that you could flash, a satellite in orbit, like President Biden has? If your dentist isn't down with the latest and greatest trend, for new clients, there's a dentist in North Carolina that is either giving customers a Glock 19 pistol. New customer comes in, you're a customer now. Boom, you get a Glock 19 pistol, or giving them membership to some gun range if you don't want a Glock or you've already got one, and there's like a membership for some region. I imagine it's probably a gun range that's fairly expensive or hard to get into, but he's worked out some kind of deal. And I just thought that was just a neat story. My dentist retired. That's why I've been paying more attention to it. That's why I remember it. My dentist, after many years, has retired. I'm looking for a new one. Too busy right now to deal with it, but I definitely am beyond my cleanings. I had to go in December, and not that you care, but my dentist retired. He sold his practice to a new dentist, and I go into this guy, and it's like, I'm your new dentist. And there's a part of me in the lizard brain in my head that goes, fuck you, you're my new dentist. I didn't hire you. I didn't choose you. You bought, someone else chose you for this practice, but I didn't hire you. And so, I kind of have this thing where it's like, so I'm looking for a new dentist. And also he's young. And, and this, as I get older, I guess, as I get older, this is going to be harder and harder for me, dealing with younger and younger and younger professionals that are smarter and more experienced and better trained than me. It's going to, at some point, I'm going to be and this is the bane of all old men, probably, self-directed people or self-employed people, I'm going to be 65 years old at some point. I don't know, asking some young 25-year-old kid advice on business or banking or finance or guns. It's like, yeah, the guns I get, but it's like some of this be like, fuck, it's gonna be hard, dude. It's gonna be real hard. It's gonna be hard. So anyway, enough of that. Politics. Staying away from politics for a while. Obviously, when we get all the boys together, we can talk about all of it. I will just make one interesting comment that I thought, an observation. So here's my political observation for episode 322 that I thought maybe is worth sharing. So at the time of this recording, there is some kind of brouhaha going on with Elon Musk. And confession, I never really even understood who Elon Musk was until about 18 months ago. Like, it's like, okay, the guy, he's got electric cars and, I guess he does rockets and maybe he does satellite internet. And it's like, I don't like the electric cars. I don't really care about his rockets. And I always thought the satellite internet was kind of bullshit. It wasn't going to work. Well, it turns out the satellite internet does apparently work real well. The car company, I guess, is successful. I don't believe in electric cars. And, the rocket business, I mean, he's turning a profit, I think. He's the government, NASA and DOD and all these companies hire him to, put satellites into space, and he's more reliable and, dependable, and there's less risk than like farming it out to the Russians, which may come to a shock to a lot of us. Certainly did to me years ago, but it got to the point we were using the Russians to put stuff into space because we had shut down the shuttle program and we didn't have a viable really rocket system. We had rockets like the Falcon, is it Falcon Heavy? Or no, that's Musk's rockets. Is it the Atlas V? Is it? Yeah, I think it's the Atlas V, the Air Force's rockets. They normally, the Air Force typically flies their rockets out of Vandenberg in California. Sometimes they do stuff, I think, in Florida, but mostly, like, if they're launching a lot of super secret military stuff, they do it out of Vandenberg. But, anyway, my point is, I'm not one of these guys that really cares about Elon Musk. Like, I didn't know he wasn't even from America until probably a year ago. Well, apparently, there's some comment on Twitter, and he liked the comment. He did not make the comment, but he liked the comment. And I have a confession. Supposedly this comment that he liked is anti-Semitic. And I tried to read it. There's a couple words I was like, I need to look up and see what the definition of that word is. I was not really even quite understanding what the comment was trying to say. And it was trying to make it was some kind of comparison between, Jews and Palestinians and maybe shit in the Middle East or something. But it wasn't even clear to me exactly how this was anti-Semitic. But I honestly I couldn't remember what one or two of the words meant. I was like, what are they what's the message? What's the analogy they're trying to make? Okay. And so I guess whatever the analogy the author was making, Elon Musk apparently agreed with it. So whatever that means. And all of a sudden everybody's all like, oh my God, anti-Semitic. And I just thought that was super interesting. Super interesting. It's because watching mainstream media, which tracks left, a lot of the left side of the political spectrum of the world, a lot of these folks have, at best are not friends of the Jews, or at best or let's say not sympathetic to any Jewish concerns. I think that would be a fair statement. I mean, it's like, you can talk about certain things, it's like nobody wants to have their citizens, and their country invaded and their citizens, massacred, and basically, these little hippie communes is what they are. But the left has been just like, I got, the Jews and all this, but now suddenly just, Elon Musk, who they've now branded as a right winger, which I don't really see how that is, but okay. Joe Rogan's not a right winger either, but whatevs. Now suddenly they're all like, anti-Semitism is wrong, and it's because they're anti-Semitic, it seems like, but now suddenly it's an avenue to go get Elon Musk because they hate Elon Musk. Because Elon Musk, smokes pot, is pretty liberal, isn't religious at all, makes electric cars, offers satellite internet communications to the world, and he was a big liberal icon until basically he got tired of voting for commies. And that seems to be the only definition of Elon Musk that makes him a conservative, is he doesn't seem to be a communist. And it's like, okay, so suddenly now they hate him, which is their right. But, the behavior of a lot of these people over the past number of weeks concerning, issues in the Middle East, and in particular, their comments about Jewish state, the state of Israel, whether you want to say Zionism or whether you want to talk about, just the diaspora of Jews around the world and their plights and violence and the attacks that have been going on against Jews. Suddenly now they're against the thing and they're like, anti-Semitism is bad. And it's just like, this is crazy. I mean, y'all fucking crazy. Twitter is crazy. The left is crazy. I support the thing. And it's just like, whatever. No one, you people don't give a fuck. It's a lot of times in life, and the world is not simple. And people, they'll make decisions or they'll take positions that don't have any foresight or any forethought or any memory beyond 5 minutes. And so there's no intellectual honesty or intellectual, I would call, through line to logically see where they're supposed to end up or where they're going to end up. They're just kind of floating, reacting to stuff nonstop. And that seems to be one of the fundamental, if you were to say what are the fundamental weaknesses of the right and the left in this country, the left in this country, the weakness is that lack of intellectual through line. And on the right, their weakness would probably be kind of absolutism, like everything has to be their way or it's no way. That's not quite really that useful either. Look what's happened, with the abortion bills around the country. We've had one here in Ohio. They've basically made it practically legal to, pull a baby out of a womb and throw it in the trash can and the dumpster out back. I mean, the abortions that are now legal in Ohio are so out of control. It's crazy. And I'm a pro-choice guy. I'm not 100% comfortable with it, but the one side won't compromise, a reason will compromise, so the other side overreacts. Look at it this way. On the right, do we trust Democrats to make decisions to, like, would I trust a Democrat to make reasonable accommodations for writing any type of legislation or regulations covering guns? No, because they're going to try to just take everything away and destroy everything. They're not acting in good faith. Well, apparently, if you look at the political spectrum around the country and around the world and things that are around the country, regarding abortion and this total bans or 6-week bans as opposed to like maybe a 12 or 15 or 18-week ban, the left has decided that they don't trust the right to regulate abortions because they feel like they're going to take it all away, and the right has not shown a propensity to do anything else, just like the left has not shown a propensity to not take my gun rights away. So, but at least the difference is, the intellectual, the right, you can see the right, you can kind of see they use the logic to tie themselves into knots, and the left, they use a lack of logic to just walk in circles. So there's my great political analysis of the 21st century. Oh, here's a funny one, and this is going to fall under the hunting kind of like hippie category. There is a store. We'll publish it, and I'm paraphrasing it because I don't have the printout in front of me. But there's an eco protester, okay, and this person's religion is climate change. Never mind, the climate always changes. We can look at data, and we can make some maybe some things are changing some, but what as opposed to the accepted ranges, as opposed to like, well, things are different now than they were 40 years ago. I don't know, how were they 100 years ago? Well, anyway, this eco protester, his person has a thesis, and his thesis is, for this particular location, he says that the hibernating bears are gone in this particular area because of climate change. And whatever his logic is, and he's like, it's messing up the environment, it's killing the animals, it's doing all this, it's doing all that. And somehow he finds a bear den, and he's like, look, the bears are gone out of here. They've been run out because of climate change. And this dude climbs down into this bear den, and guess what happens? Old Smokey the Bear starts trying to take a bite out of his ass. And it's just like, God, again, the logical through line on the left to tie yourself in the knots, the lack of any consistency, or the logical through line on the right to tie yourself in knots, and then the lack of consistency to just completely go in circles on the left gets you mauled, possibly almost killed by a bear, because somehow you have convinced yourself that climbing into a bear den is not basically attempted suicide. Okay, I thought this was worth mentioning because this is a topic that's been bothering me for a little bit. Again, this is kind of one of those things of, I never really paid attention to Tiger Woods until the whole thing blew up with all the girlfriend problems. And before, really, I mean, I kind of knew who he was, and he's a $1 billion golfer, his brand, and his wife, and he wore red shirts, and he did Buick commercials. But I couldn't have told you a whole lot about him, other than like, he's great, he's the greatest, like the usual top 5 athletes of all the different sports. He was one of them. He went through all these issues. It is what it is. I don't know what's going on in his personal life. However, he subsequently, a couple years ago, he met a woman. He started dating a woman who was the manager of, I guess he's got a restaurant or a chain of restaurants. I don't know, maybe it's like the Tiger Woods 9 Iron. I have no idea what this restaurant's called. So, but there's a woman, she manages this restaurant. She's some kind of manager. And so she ostensibly works for Tiger Woods. So he meets her at least occasionally, and they get involved. And it's serious enough that he starts bringing her to golf games, and a little girl too. And I think I'm 6'1". He might be taller than me, so she's really short. Starts bringing her to golf games and giving her spouse credentials, and travels around. She's literally hanging off. This is over the course of years. This is after all the fallout with all the prostitutes, the hookers, and what was that? Rachel Yucatel. I read Rachel Yucatel's book. She's the fixer for anyway. It's worth reading. So anyway, he gets involved with this girl, the manager girl, and to the point that she moves into the house. He lives in some big mansion. And again, he went through this crazy divorce, breakup. So, I hate to say it like this, he's been down this road before. So, there probably was like a kind of like an NDA that she had to sign, and maybe some kind of contracts or limitations. He didn't marry her, but there are certain things that are expected that she's not allowed to do. And as you start to move through life, I don't think the average person understands this. They got a taste of it with Donald Trump. But one thing you start to realize is, and I'm going somewhere with this, is a lot of these, you're aware of, athletes being targeted by these women and getting pregnant. This is a story as old as time. But what I think a lot of people don't really understand, and it took me a while to figure it out too, as I got to be older and more successful, and I start meeting more and more people, was, and in particular, and I don't know if it's true for women, because I don't know a lot of female billionaires personally, or serious multimillionaires personally. They're normally spouses of other people, but I've noticed a lot of successful men, when they date, if they're not married or if they're divorced, they end up having, when they date a girl, somehow they end up having to pay the chick off. And there has to be a contract signed. Or, there has to be NDAs in place. And, there's conditions, if then else, or if then this, else that. And it's so fucking bizarre if you think about it. Like, it talks, think about like Jeff Bezos. Like, remember Jeff Bezos was, he was married, and I guess his marriage wasn't working, and he's involved with this woman who's now his girlfriend, and he, I guess word was getting out, I don't know, like the Saudi government and hackers, and like maybe this woman he's dating, her brother, they're all trying to blackmail him and prove that he's involved with this woman, and it turns into like an international incident. And it's like, the more successful a lot of these men are, and it's not just rock stars. Like, you think of this like with NFL football players, or you think of it maybe with, I don't know, like Hollywood actors, but like just uber successful men. The situations that they have to put up with, they just can't date a girl. It's like it's somehow it ends up turning into, there's got to be payoff. It's not that it's prostitution, but it's like, Tiger Woods. I'm going somewhere with this. Tiger Woods meets this girl. She works at this restaurant that he owns. She doesn't report to him directly. Whatever. It's like, hey, they met at work. That's very common. Start dating. Get seen in public. That's very common. Taking it slow. Maybe not taking it slow. We don't know. She just shows up at the golf course. Maybe, that's very common. Eventually she starts, maybe, she brings a toothbrush over to the mansion, very common, and then, eventually she's moving into the mansion. Well, he decides to break up with her. And the story, and this made the rounds at the time, it was that he had told her, I think she had lived there for 5 years, and there's no common law marriage in Florida. But he had told her, it's like, hey, maybe they're having a bunch of trouble. There must have been a lot of trouble there. And, it was, why don't you go on this vacation, go on this retreat, go take the jet, go to this whatever place and, do a girl's thing or a massage thing or whatever, you want to go do. And so she's packed up, and it's going to be a big trip. Like, she's going to take a bunch of stuff. And, again, she's Tiger Woods' girlfriend. Like, she's gonna fly on a G6, jet, and there's gonna be staff. She probably has an assistant. Like, it's gonna be a bigger lift than like, I don't know, you going to Myrtle Beach. Okay, like it's gonna be a move. And she gets to the airport. Again, it'll be the private executive airport, and there's a guy waiting for her that works for Tiger Woods, and he says, okay, we have to talk. This is the situation. As of right now, you are not to go back to the house. The locks have been changed. All of your stuff while you were driving to the airport, being chauffeured to the airport, has been packed up and is currently being loaded into a truck right now. We have made arrangements for you to stay in, we've rented something or done something, she can go move into something else. And I think they offered her money and, like set her up and do whatever, and you're thinking, well, gosh, this sounds like the end of negotiations for a lot of things in life. And this is starting off right at the beginning. It's like, can't people just break up? Why would they do it like this? Why would they have to, like they have to basically make it mission impossible just to get her out of the house and set up this giant ruse and spend all this money? Is it because this is how it normally has to work? Or is it because this girl's crazy? Or is it because he's an uber successful guy and a lot of women, they think they've got the golden ticket, and statistically speaking, if it turns out the golden ticket gets torn in half, they go crazy. We'll never know the answer, but one of those three things seems to happen to a lot of people. So this happens with Tiger Woods. So she gets a lawyer and she sues him. And again, I guess it's like he could just be like, hey, look, it's not working out. It's not you, it's me. It's the other people. Maybe he was afraid that, it was going to turn into another big drama like he had with his ex-wife. And that's totally fair. He's not married to this girl. He can break up with her. As a matter of fact, that's what you do. You break up with them if you're not going to marry him. And so she lawyers up, and then she files, because there is an NDA. They've also given her a ton of money. They're giving her more money when they met her at the airport. So it's not like they cut her off and she's like destitute. Like they're transitioning her out of his life. Okay. And so that seems fair. Well, she goes to break this NDA and wants to sue him for, I can't remember, it's like $100 million. And she sues him for the house he's lived in for like 15 years. Like it's the house he bought. Maybe he owned it when he was married to the other girl, or maybe he bought it right after. But apparently it is understood this has been his house for a long time. Kind of like Kevin Costner in California. And so how is she going to break this NDA? In the law, and she claims that he was sexually abusive and basically sexually abused her. And the argument being, criminal, you can't sign away. You can't use the civil shields to protect you from criminal prosecutions. And so she was using this as a tactic to get out of to break this NDA and the clauses so she could sue and go after the house and ask for $100 million. Mind you, she's his fucking girlfriend. Okay? Well, this has been going on for, I guess, a couple of years, and it came out just recently they have settled. She's released a statement. They've come to a settlement, and she came out and part of her statement was, Tiger Woods never abused me, never sexually abused me, never verbally abused me, never did all this or did all that. And then her statement, she says, I never made those allegations. Those allegations are made in filings by counsel. Roughly is what it's a weasel way of saying it wasn't me, it was whatever. And it's just like, this world, it's so fucked up, and you think about Donald Trump having to pay all these women off. Okay. Tiger Woods can't just date a girl. It has to turn into a freaking disaster. Kevin Costner, who I don't know a whole lot about, unfortunately, because of all the stuff in the media with his wife leaving him, trying to, cheating on him and breaking up the marriage, and they're a long time married, and she's trying to take his house and all this crazy shit going on. It's just like, people wonder why. And people wonder why dudes like Andrew Tate and a lot of these other people are more and more popular. Because not everything they say is wrong. And that's hard for people to hear, but it's the truth. And, you see stories like the Tiger Woods story, and you see stories like the Kevin Costner story. And then, people want to pretend like, I don't understand why certain people and certain things are becoming more popular with men, or certain attitudes are becoming more popular with men, like going overseas and finding brides and finding women that aren't in the United States, or finding women that are not so aggressive or so it's, they would say, I'm paraphrasing for the other side here, be like, that aren't such bitches, and, you see some of the stuff like wealthy, successful, handsome dudes are still dealing with fucking crazy women. And it's just like, holy shit, guys. This is just terrible for everybody. Women, you need to pull your shit together. Okay, that probably was not the thing you wanted to hear on the John1911 Gun Podcast, but hey, I gotta be me. Let's do the police blotter. Let's go ahead and call it. I got three interesting ones. First one is out of LA, quote, a wealthy LA father. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Is it wealthy compared to the rest of us, or wealthy for LA? I don't know. There's security cam footage of this. some guys. It looked like it was a home invasion, attempted home invasion, and they came at this guy. They come to the house with guns. He pulled out a gun. I think he started shooting at these guys and drove them off. It's on video. And I guess he has a gun license. I don't know how that works in LA. Some of our listeners, obviously you regulars out there, can, I know I'm one of you in particular, and reach out to me if you have any insight on these gun permits. These gun permits in Los Angeles. But anyway, he used a gun to defend himself and drive off these people. And it's all on multiple cameras. It's on Ring doorbells. It's on, security cameras. It's apparently, he's high profile enough that he somehow was targeted by home invaders. And he doesn't seem to be in the dope game. Hey, look, here's a cheat sheet for the world. In most cases, home invasions are not truly random. They are typically, the first place you start is somebody's in a dope game. But the ones that are truly random really make the news. So anyway, what happens next? Welcome to California. Gavin Newsom has a good chance of being the next president of the United States. Apparently, they decide to take the father's gun permit away, and I don't know if in California if that means he's got to give up his gun as well. But it's like, okay, yeah, thanks, California. Fucking shithole. Second one, and this is related. This is a local story, and it's kind of related to 2020 and Donald Trump, because I'm starting to see one of the problems I've had with the 2020 election and the arguments that people make on the right about stealing the election. Like I understand that, the media covering for the media trying to say that Donald Trump is a Russian agent is all bullshit. Now that's cheating. The media is trying to say that Donald Trump is peeing on hookers in Russia. That's cheating. The media covering, suppressing the story about Hunter Biden and the laptop from hell, they call it, and that's all cheating, and the way they don't really do their jobs and how they can suppress things. I mean, we're seeing it all now. Like, I don't want to get too much into it, but one of my concerns have been was, well, where's the evidence? Like, where's the ballots, and where's the signatures, and where's the thing? Because if you find ballots, or you find that there's ballots cast that aren't legit, not only should you be able to identify that, you should be able to approach all these people. Like, if there's 1,500 fake ballots, well, there's 1,500 people, and you can subpoena all 1,500 of those people and be like, well, number one, are you alive? Number two, is this your signature? And number three, did you even know you voted? And like, this could be very interesting, but nobody ever, when this stuff comes up, the last one that I talked about that happened in Connecticut, they had caught all these city workers stuffing these ballots and these unattended ballot boxes for these mayoral primary election just a few weeks ago. And, it's like crickets. No one really wants to talk about it. And it's like, I don't know. There's a big paperwork trail there, and there's a lot to see. Like, I want to see what individual ballots are. But to me, that is proof that this is organized. There is an organized effort by certainly some groups to stuff. I'm not just like 5 or 10 ballots. These were thousands and thousands and thousands of ballots. The media is not talking about it. I don't think the right-wing media is talking about it. I don't think Donald Trump's talking about it, which is super weird to me. But, there's other instances of this going on around the country. Incidentally, one of the flow-throughs that I've motivations for moving the John 1911 Armory in the business is I don't feel good about the long-term prospects of Cincinnati. I don't want to rehash it all here, but things are turning. Even just in the past couple of weeks, things have changed dramatically. Basically, there's no more Republicans hardly left that run anything. It's becoming a uniparty system, a one-party rule system. The last of the major Republican office holders is the county prosecutor. And once that happens, the county's taken over, the city's taken over, the sheriff's taken over, and it's like, some of the local congressional representatives, like the one last guy, he's just announced he's retiring because I don't think he can win re-election because he's been doing it for a while and he probably can't hold his Republican seat and is going to go Democrat. And you're seeing more and more of this. I'm saying all that in the police blotter to say this. We've had another indictment here in Cincinnati the past week. This involves an ex-mayoral candidate who's been indicted for election fraud. She, I think she was on city council. She's been indicted for election fraud, and she's looking at 3 years. She did two things. She had a bunch of she faked a bunch of what is it? She did. She faked a bunch of votes. She faked maybe it was a bunch of. She needed signatures to get on the ballot. And so there was one thing she submitted, or there was something she submitted for signatures to get something on a ballot or to get something to be voted on. And she went through and this whole piece of paper with all these signatures, it was all the same. You could tell it was all the same handwriting, duplicate addresses. It was just so bogus and fake. And they filled this shit out and they submitted it. And there was another one where, they had gone through and it was, I don't know, was it 5,000 signatures, whatever her little ward was, or maybe it's 7,000 signatures. And they determined like 50% of these signatures on this other thing were not real. This all shit was fake. It was fake names, fake addresses. A lot of times it was like addresses at empty warehouses. They've got her. So someone's been paying more attention. But it's like, we'll just have to see what happens in 2024. And I wish there'd be more of a look at this kind of stuff regarding 2020 as opposed to a lot of the grand conspiracy theories that, go on out there. But I thought that was worth sharing. Last of the police blotters. Wow, they're going for a while here. This is out of Russia. And this is a story about pedophiles. So how do I frame this story up? There's a guy and a husband and wife. So the guy and his best friend. And they've apparently been best friends most of their lives. And they're such best friends that the best friend, the father's like, yeah, the best friend can babysit his two daughters, kind of help them. Maybe they're picking them up from school or, doing things, like whatever it is. So anyway, the father ends up coming home one day or somehow, and he catches his best friend molesting his daughter. And so what happened was he, stopped the molestation, whatever it was, and he took the guy out into the woods into a remote location and said, dig a hole. And the guy dug a hole. And then the pedophile dug his hole, and then the pedophile was stabbed, left in the hole, and then buried. And the father was arrested for, because of the dead pedophile, which kind of makes logical sense. Well, the Russian courts have determined that the Russian courts have determined that the father is guilty of assisted suicide, and so he was gonna get maybe 12 months in jail or maybe 18 months, but he's served 6. And they have ruled that it was a suicide, that the pedophile stabbed himself like 17 times, multiple times, buried himself in the hole, and, it was a suicide. And it's just like, look, it's not all bad in Russia. It's not all bad. Like, I'm not a fan of Russians. I'm notoriously anti-Russian. I mean, I'm not anti-Russian. I took Russian in college. I understand Russians quite well. It's not all bad. I mean, I take the Ukrainian side in the war. So if you're new here, I mean, don't be surprised by that. But yeah, I mean, it looks to me like that pedophile did probably kill himself one way or the other. Well, this wraps up episode 322 of the John1911 Podcast. If you want to see any more stories or pictures or links, everything we discussed, please go to the website at john1911.com. That's JOHN1911.com. Remember, it's all about shooting guns and having fun. Everybody, have a good night.